to Ready for the Weekend episode 15, the show where myself and Kev preview and predict the weekend's most important sporting action. Coming up on this week's show, we have action from GAA, football, boxing and snooker. We hope you enjoy. We have the Cork versus Limerick All-Ireland hurling final, and to be honest, I'm going to leave the majority of this to Kev to run through. It's not my game, so I'll leave the majority of the information to him. 40,000 people in attendance at Croke Park. I'll be leaning Limerick here for no other reason than pretty much a little bit of bias from going to uni there. I'm just going to leave the rest to Kev because he did the notes, he knows the info. Over to you, man.
We have Cork versus Limerick. Limerick hoping to retain their All-Ireland hurling champions. Limerick has been very, very good. Despite their poor league performance this year, they have been doing very, very well. Maybe questioning their first half performance in the Munster final against Tipperary, but they came back in the second half. Credit to them. They looked pretty decent against Waterford, and it seems very likely to win it on our All-Ireland this year. Cork, very, very good performance against Kilkenny, going extra time. Honestly, I thought Kilkenny would be favourites to win. Cork had other things in their minds. Cork now has another chance to hopefully win the All-Ireland after being in a couple of finals, notably in 2013 and 2006. I will actually hopefully back Cork. I think Limerick have won enough already. I actually like both teams as they have very young squads, and also the fact that Cork has a lot of young players coming up in the under-20s and the minor stages. A few injuries. Dermot for Limerick hurling. He's time this has been recorded. We aren't sure he's going to play in the final or not. But generally, the teams have been very fit for it. I think Cork, by at least, it's going to be very close, especially with these Munster teams, especially in the big occasion. I would say by at least 2 points. I think that would be the closest you can get. So that's what's hopefully going to happen.
Alright, next up we have the Manny Pacquiao Vs Ugas fight. Probably the biggest international event this weekend. Was supposed to be Errol Spence Jr., but he pulled out on a week's notice with a detached retina, so nasty injury. But Ugas stepped up. Fight's going to be for the WBA super welterweight title. I think both men are claiming they hold it at the moment, which has made it a little bit weird. Pacquiao, 42, still going, like boxing royalty, holding belts from flyweight up to super welterweight. Currently the senator for the Philippines, so, technically white-collar boxing. Oldest welterweight champ in history, 4-time welterweight champ. I mean, he's fought everybody: Mayweather, Hatton, De La Hoya, Mosley. Other hand, Ugas, pretty new to me, don't really know that much about him. Coming in with a size advantage, 3 inches taller, considerably younger at 35. 2008 Olympic bronze medalist, world champ in 2005, 3-fight win streak, lost his last title opportunity, which was the WBC welterweight title against Sean Porter. I'm gonna still lean Pacquiao here. It's boxing, he's the guy I've heard of, that usually works. I'm gonna say Pacquiao by decision.
In the super welterweight, we have Pacquiao versus Ugas. Pacquiao winning his last match in 2019 to win the belt by unanimous decision. Ugas' last fight was 2020 against Ramos to win the regular welterweight. Ugas' style is very suits his height. He uses his arm span like he's more taller than Pacquiao, and he's very strong punches. But Pacquiao, over the years we've seen him seems not slowing down despite his age. He's still very fast, and he's very hard hooks. I would still think Pacquiao might actually win this, but again I think it'll be won't be a knockout. I think it'll be a very close fight, but again we'll see how it goes.
Okay, third up this weekend we have a London derby in the Premier League as Arsenal take on Chelsea. Second week of the season already, games coming thick and fast, and big games at that. Differing starts to the season. Arsenal looked horrendously bad against Brentford, just getting tore apart by them in their 2-0 loss. Sizable injury list: Aubameyang, Lacazette, Thomas Partey, all unavailable, but really they just look super disorganised. Brentford took advantage of a team that does not know how to defend set pieces and seemingly doesn't really like going forwards much either. Chelsea, on the other hand, big win over Palace, 3-0. Lukaku on the way in, possibly going to make his re-debut. And the benefit to them is also a fairly clean bill of health. I mean, they're not really going to be without too many people, and you have to say they've got the stronger squad. Other side of the coin, though, Arsenal did win both of their league meetings last season, 3-1 and 1-0. I've still got to take Chelsea. I didn't see the game against Palace, but I saw the Brentford Arsenal game, and that's enough to make me take Chelsea, and comfortably at that I'm going to say a 2-0 Chelsea win.
In the Premier League, we have Arsenal versus Chelsea in the second week of the season. Arsenal had a very unfortunate game against Brentford with their 2-0 loss. Didn't seem very troubling at all, actually, and also the fact that lots of injuries, including Aubameyang and Lacazette. So it won't be in their favour against Chelsea, who has brought in a lot of signings this year, and they still have the same team, pretty much the same team from the last Champions League final. I think it's going to be Chelsea, and even so, I think it's going to be 3-0. Usually, when you lose your game, you usually redeem yourself for the next fixture. But even Arsenal's team, I don't think is enough. I still think Chelsea will take advantage of this. They won very comfortably against Crystal Palace, and I think they'll do the same thing as well for Arsenal. So I think 3-0.
Moving over to Italy, we are going to look at Jose Mourinho's first Roma game in charge as they take on Fiorentina. Both teams really had disappointing seasons last year. Finesca getting the sack from Roma after finishing 7th, and Fiorentina finishing 14th despite having one of the most impressive goal scorers in Italy. Roma again won both of their games last season against Fiorentina, 2-0 and 2-1. Very much they've gone full Jose Mourinho this year, though. Big rebuild in Rome this year as he's just blitzed that squad. I mean, Dzeko's left. They're one of the very few teams in Italy to have really spent big this year, racking up a 90 million spend on the likes of Tammy Abraham, Rui Patricio, Roger Ibanez. 6 arrivals. They're going to have 2 major issues injury-wise as Chris Smalling and Spinazzola are both out. I mean, Spinazzola's going to be out pretty much most of the season if that injury from the Euros was anything to go by visually. Fiorentina, on the other hand, much less active. 2 signings. Argentina international Nico Gonzalez joins along with defender Igor, who I'm not overly familiar with. Lafont's left, fairly big outgoing, losing their goalkeeper, but they still have Vlahovic, who racked up 21 goals last season, even though he is being linked as the potential replacement for Harry Kane at Tottenham. So he will be here for this week, it's just whether he'll be there going forward. I've still got to back Jose here, and I'm going to say it's going to be a tight game. I'm going to go 2-1 for Roma, but I think this could be a pretty decent watch.
In Serie A, we have Roma versus Fiorentina. All eyes will be fixed on Roma and seeing how Jose Mourinho will actually do with this club. Jose Mourinho, usual style, bringing in a lot of signings in and a lot of good players, including the Chelsea star Abraham. I think he's a very good player. Did very well for Chelsea. So it looks like he'd be more the star player for Roma. Unfortunately for Fiorentina, not a very good season last year, but they have brought in more signings. However, they have star players that might be leaving the club, which is something they don't want, especially with the tough season they have ahead, especially big clubs including Inter Milan, AC Milan, and Juventus, and now Roma. They will see how Jose Mourinho will actually do well with this club. I'm going to say 2-0. Hopefully, Roma will bring more excitement than their previous season, which come 7th, I think, on the table. Hopefully do at least make it the Champions League spot, but for this game, hopefully a 2-0 win will do them.
Alright, so we opened up with a sport I know nothing about, and we're finishing with a sport I possibly know even less about as we hop over to the snooker to see men poking balls with a stick. Yeah, it's the British Open in the snooker, returning for the first time in 17 years at the Morningside Arena in Leicester. It's a rankings tournament, whatever that means, for a £100,000 prize, which that I understand, and that was about the extent of this that I understand. Current holder, if that's anything to go by with a 17-year gap, is John Higgins, who is in the tournament. He's ranked number 7. But basically, having scrolled through the list of who's there at the end of round 2, which is at the point we're recording here on Thursday night, the world number 1, Judd Trump, is still there, so I'm going to guess him. Not much more to go on other than apparently he's good and he's still there. Go Judd.
We have the British Open in the snooker after returning after 17 years. The last win was by John Higgins back in 2005. You would like to think that John Higgins will retain his title. He's won his last match 3-1, but ideally I should probably go for Shelby, would be a safe bet. However, he is playing against John Murphy in the next minute. Right now actually, but I still think he'll actually win over Sean Murphy and win the tournament. He's been very dominant in snooker and he seems to be not stopping, so hopefully we'll see how it goes.
Right, so that brings episode 15 to an end. Not the strongest week for me in terms of what we're picking this week. Probably confident with 2 of them, and that being the football. Much more Kev's week than me, but yeah, we'll see how things go anyway. Drop a like, a subscribe, let us know in the comments anything you want us to cover going forwards, because we're more than happy to take recommendations, because usually I'm just scrolling through whatever's on TV. Until then, though, see you next time.